She died, went beyond the veil, and learned the hidden truth about soul's purpose. NDE. Have you ever felt like you don't belong here? Have you ever wondered if there's a deeper purpose to this life? A greater mission that you've never understood? In those painful moments, could we possibly recognize a higher purpose? A light guiding our souls? Today, I want to share with you the story of a woman who faced death in excruciating despair, only to enter a mystical world beyond imagination. In her unexpected near-death experience, she encountered Jesus Christ and discovered the true reason why we come to this earth. This story isn't just about death. It's about life, about love, and a journey to uncover eternal secrets that only souls who have transcended death can comprehend. Join me in exploring this deeply moving story, because after hearing it, you will look at your own life in an entirely new way. Throughout my life, I've always felt a suffocating sense of not belonging here. This feeling has lingered within me since I was a child, as though a part of me exists somewhere beyond this world. But I can never reach it. Particularly, the memories of my childhood with my father, a violent man, made me feel trapped in a world I couldn't understand. My father not only abused me but also haunted my mother and sister. The feeling I had at that time was one of helplessness, unable to change anything. Only when my parents divorced when I was 12 did I feel a slight relief, though I also felt an indescribable loss. After my parents' divorce, I became lost. The feeling of loneliness and despair grew stronger. My mother fell into depression, though she loved and cared for me deeply. Meanwhile, I sought solace in friends, but they seemed no different from me, carrying their own confusion and instability. Part of me longed for connection, yet another part of me felt too different to truly fit in with anyone. At the age of 15, I ran away from home. I had no place to return to, no one to rely on. On the cold streets, I faced unimaginable dangers. I was kidnapped by a drug dealer, a person full of madness and violence. I had to fight for my life every day. The fear and confusion haunted me until I grew older. Every night, I had nightmares, memories of my father and terrifying encounters on the streets. But there was a moment in my life that I will never forget. It was a day in 1989 when I felt as though I could no longer endure. The excruciating headache and the seizures seemed to defeat me. I had no life left, no hope. Finally, I decided to seek death, thinking I could no longer go on. I took a large amount of pills and alcohol, preparing for my departure without hesitation. As everything began to darken, I felt a strange sensation. It wasn't fear, but rather a sense of release. It felt like a fresh wave of energy flowing through my body, sweeping away all sadness, tension, and fear. I no longer felt pain, only absolute stillness and an incredible sense of freedom. It was then that I realized I had left my body. I was stunned to see myself looking down at my own body from above. I couldn't understand what was happening, but the truth was I was no longer in my body. I saw my mother crying, and my friend, whom I cherished, was desperately trying to save me. But I no longer felt worry, nor did I feel sorrow. Everything felt like a dream. strange yet peaceful. Then I began to feel a light sensation, as if I were floating upwards. I couldn't explain it, but it felt like I was being lifted, passing through layers of clouds, heading towards a starry sky. Everything around me glowed with a light brighter than even the stars themselves. Objects all had different colors, details I had never noticed before. I didn't just see them. I felt them, as if every part of the universe had its own soul, its own energy. As I ascended higher, I saw myself passing through clouds into a pitch-black space. Although nothing was clearly defined there, I felt an absolute sense of safety. It wasn't a dark space, but an intermediary place, full of stillness and calm. That sensation made me feel as though I was no longer bound by anything in this physical world. I could see, hear, and feel everything without needing to use my regular senses. As I began to feel the incredible freedom of leaving my body, I didn't just feel like I was soaring through the starry sky and clouds, but I also noticed a change in the surrounding space. That was when I entered a dark area, one devoid of light and life. The space seemed to sink into a heavy silence, as though the universe had entered a state of stillness. Despite the lack of clarity, I felt a strange but familiar energy, a force that made me aware of the presence of other entities. In that space, I began to sense a very faint movement around me. A powerful force seemed to pull me into another dimension, where I couldn't identify the beings around me by sight, only through each breath and vibration in the space around me. These creatures didn't have any physical form. They had no eyes, noses, mouths, or limbs like we do. Instead, they were blocks of energy, invisible beings, but with a presence so tangible that I couldn't explain it. These souls carried a sense of hostility and darkness. It wasn't a direct attack, but a kind of invasion of my mind, my thoughts. At first, I only sensed their presence as fleeting shadows passing through me, causing unease. But as they drew closer, I began to feel their hostility more clearly. Fear started to rise within me, as if I were surrounded by cold, invisible forces, beings with no apparent shape, but with an unseen power that affected my every thought. A larger entity, like a giant monster, began to emerge from the darkness. Though it had no definite shape, I could feel that it was powerful and full of hatred. It felt like a massive creature, genderless, radiating a brutal strength and boundless loathing. I couldn't see exactly what it was, but I could sense the darkness and hatred in every breath it took. With each step it made, I felt as though an earthquake was shaking, as though the very space around me was shattering under its power. For me, it was a tense moment. I could feel that I was being watched, invaded by these souls, as if they wanted to take control of my mind. These weren't souls that had once been human, they were beings from somewhere else, a realm I couldn't comprehend. They didn't have physical bodies, but they could read my thoughts, penetrate every corner of my mind. A dreadful feeling rose within me, as if I were being attacked from the inside. As the largest entity, with its massive form and intense energy of hatred, approached me, I felt its rage and danger in every gesture it made. It didn't speak directly to me, but I could sense its fury, the deep animosity it carried. I felt as though I was sinking into an endless abyss with no escape. It began to challenge me, angrily asking, "Why are you here? Don't you know who you are? Why are you allowed to exist in this space while we, these forgotten souls, must suffer eternally?" That question stunned me. I didn't understand its meaning. I responded with confusion, "I don't understand. I don't know who I am." The entity, with its heavy and angry tone, spoke again, "You are a child of God, a blessed one. Yet you don't understand the value of life. You are set free, while we are left in this darkness, with no way out." Its words left me feeling confused and guilty. I didn't understand why I was being hated by these souls, even though I had done nothing to them. But an uncomfortable truth became clear in my mind: they were not forgotten or abandoned souls, but creatures born from darkness, from places full of resentment and hostility. They had no goal of salvation, only a desire to destroy anything good that remained. As I was pulled deeper into that dark space, the negative souls continued to surround me, causing my mind to become disordered and confused. Their hatred grew clearer, as if an invisible force was pulling me into an abyss with no escape. I could sense the danger approaching, but at the moment I felt most powerless. Something miraculous happened. A brilliant light suddenly appeared from afar, shining like the rising sun in the darkness. This light was unlike anything I had ever seen. It didn't just illuminate the surroundings, it also touched the very depths of my soul, dispelling the gloom and filling me with a light, peaceful sensation. I can't describe the wonderful feeling. It wasn't a physical object or presence, but a spiritual force, full of love and forgiveness. From this light, an image gradually emerged, not a regular person, but a powerful and compassionate being. He stood there, not in a physical body, but surrounded by a radiant aura, emanating holiness and absolute peace. He didn't need to say anything, yet I felt an unconditional, profound love from him. A love that transcended all boundaries, all suffering, and all misunderstandings. The moment I sensed his presence, I immediately recognized that it was Jesus Christ, although I couldn't clearly see his features as I had in paintings. I didn't need to see clearly, for in the deepest part of my soul, I knew it was him. A sense of peace flooded my being, as though I had found home, the place where I truly belonged. Jesus didn't speak immediately. He simply gazed at me with infinite love and compassion. Then, with a voice that came not from his mouth but from my very soul, he asked me, "Why have you come here, child? Why have you wandered so far away from your true path?" I was so touched that I began to cry. For the first time in my life, I realized that the loneliness, the pain, and the confusion I had always felt weren't by accident. I had been searching for something greater, something beyond this world, but I had never understood what it was. Jesus gently took my hand and led me to a new place. The space around us seemed to vanish, and the next moment, I found myself in a warm, peaceful land, a place without sorrow or fear. It wasn't a place of any earthly description, but a realm filled with love, calm, and tranquility. Here, everything was light. I no longer felt burdened. I no longer felt afraid. I knew this place existed beyond death and this world. This is how I came to understand that life is not just a cycle of suffering and confusion. Life is a journey to discover our true nature, our higher purpose, and to learn how to love deeply and unconditionally. This journey is not always easy, but it is through love and forgiveness that we can transcend all pain and limitations. And now, every day, I know that life isn't just a path to survival, it's a journey to discover and experience the deepest truths of existence. Just like the souls I encountered during my near-death experience, we are all searching for meaning. And in the end, it is love that saves us all. If you have ever felt lost or hopeless, know that there is always a way back. You are not alone. And there is a greater purpose behind your life. It is only when we open our hearts to the love that surrounds us that we can find our true path. I realized the pain and despair I felt earlier were not just because of life's challenges, but because I had never truly understood the purpose of life itself. It was not about survival. It was about love, an unconditional love that transcends everything we face in this world. If you found this video helpful and inspiring, please consider giving it a thumbs up, sharing it with others, and subscribing to the channel for more insights into personal growth, meditation, and spirituality. Your support means the world to me, and together, we can create a more mindful and compassionate community. Feel free to leave a comment below sharing your thoughts or experiences with today's practice. I would love to hear from you, and I always appreciate your engagement. If you're new here, welcome to the channel, and I hope you find peace and inspiration through the content we create. Thank you for being part of this journey.